Dr. William Samoei Ruto. And there goes the Speaker of the National Assembly also, Speaker Moses Masika Wetangula, and the leadership of the judiciary. You can see Chief Justice Martha Koome ahead there, and then the Deputy Chief Justice, the Honorable Philomena Mwilu, also in town. There are also clerks of both the National Assembly and the Senate. The acting clerk of the National Assembly is Madame Sarah Kioko. And we also have the clerk of the Senate, also in town, Jeremiah Nyegenye, to receive the Deputy President, the Honorable Rigathi Gachagua. So the only thing we're waiting for right now is the arrival of President Dr. William Samoei Ruto. And how will we know that he's about to get here is when the Deputy President leaves that ground to go back outside the precincts of Parliament to receive the President once he makes his way here. But of course, seeing the Deputy President is an indication, so close just yet, that indeed the President is not very far away from making his way to the National Assembly chambers, or Parliament for that matter, to make his inaugural address. There you see Chief Justice, the Honorable Martha Koome, is also there alongside Speaker Moses Wetangula. Of course, let's continue speaking about the agenda that the President is expected to execute. We've talked about the funding of the bottom-up agenda, or the plan, the Kenya Kwanza manifesto, looking at how badly Kenya is doing in terms of debt repayment and the colossal amounts of money that we have incurred in terms of debt. What are the choices for the President? Maybe the proposals will come out of here, whether to borrow, you go back to Parliament, raise the ceiling in terms of borrowing, and then continue to borrow, something he promised that he wouldn't do, that he would go less on borrowing and have local solutions. Or if you don't want to go the path of borrowing, does it mean then that you continue or you tax Kenyans more? That is the catch-22 situation the President has to deal with. But of course, you will remember part of his proposal on NSSF is that every person contributes 10% of your salary to NSSF, and then government will add you about 5% to your savings in the National Social Security Fund, that is NSSF, largely money meant to help you in your retirement. But then this monies will be invested by government. When you retire, you'll be given your colossal amount of money, and then after that, obviously, you can also continue to enjoy your monthly kitty that comes out of this pension scheme. Is that one of the plans where, or what the President intends to use in terms of funding his vision? That's the big question today. And of course, that will be answered here today as he makes his address. To talk about farming also, quite an interesting one. You remember he has released millions of bags to different parts of the country, particularly what you consider the food basket areas of this country. You're looking at Rift Valley, Western, and parts of central Kenya, where this fertilizer has been released to. And farmers have started, getting the 50 kg bags of DAP, CAN to enable farming, particularly even for tea farmers. And he will also talk at large about this program of subsidy. And you remember earlier we were saying from his inauguration speech at Kasarani about 3 weeks ago, the President said we cannot continue to fund consumption or to subsidize consumption. Our agenda is to subsidize production. And that, again, you expect that he will repeat here in terms of removing the subsidy on fuel, removing the subsidy on unga, to ensure that the government subsidizes on production. And when it comes to the issues of fuel, because the market prices are stabilizing as we move towards the end of the year, maybe that is where the hope of this administration lies in terms of stabilizing fuel prices in the country. But the pictures you have on your screen, the Kenya Air Force mounting the guard of honor to honor their commander-in-chief, the President of the Republic of Kenya, as he makes his address, his inaugural address. He has never addressed Parliament before. This is his first time. And it is also his first time, by the way, to inspect a guard of honor. You remember his swearing in Kasarani. The person who entered with a ceremonial Land Rover is the retired president, Uhuru Kenyatta. Then inspected the guard of honor, went to the inauguration dais, handed over the instruments of power, and after that, the only thing that happened is that President William Ruto mounted the ceremonial Land Rover, went round the stadium acknowledging greetings from Kenyans who had gathered there, but he never got the opportunity to inspect the guard of honor. This is his first as the Commander-in-Chief of the Defense Forces of the Republic of Kenya, of course, as President, the 5th President of the Republic of Kenya. You have pictures there from inside the chambers and outside the chambers. Inside the chambers are members of Parliament drawn from the Senate and the National Assembly gathering there ahead of that address. And then on the other split screen, you had the leadership of the House, the leadership of the judiciary. So this is another time where you will have the leadership of the three arms of government under one roof. You're talking about the leadership of the executive, obviously led by President William Ruto, the leadership of the judiciary that is led by Honorable Justice or Chief Justice Martha Koome, and then the leadership of Parliament led by Speaker Moses Wetangula and Speaker Amason Jeffa Kingi of the National Assembly and the Senate, respectively. The life of the 13th Parliament began during the swearing in like about 3 weeks ago, but then the President will be breathing even more life to this 13th Parliament when they have the first session today, and then probably from the 4th of October, Parliament will be resuming its sittings normally, and that will be announced by both speakers once the President is done with his speech, or once he's done with his inaugural speech. And of course, keeping abreast both chambers on what he expects of them in terms of delivering his legislative agenda. You will remember the President had spoken about the whole aspect of lowering the burden of debt on the shoulders of Kenyans, and particularly those ones that have been negatively listed with the Credit Reference Bureau. That means then they cannot be able to borrow or access credit facilities owing to the fact that they have been discredited, or they have a bad record with the Credit Reference Bureau, or CRB. So what are you looking at? Yesterday, through a negotiation between Safaricom, the NCBA Bank, then there were concessions that came around, obviously part of them being the 50% relief on loans on Fuliza, which is a very common